Admins, if you haven't automated some of the things you spend time on regularly, then you probably need to be thinking about ways to do that. One example of this is with user management. I'm constantly seeing companies where to add a new user, the admin has to go in and manually create that user. They have to assign them any permission sets. They have to add them to any public groups. There's a bunch of steps, and if they're an effective company, they've documented those steps. Often you haven't, but at best it's documented. But again, you've got all sorts of problems there. One, the admin is a single point of failure. If they're not available, then they're holding us up. Two, even if you have multiple admins or multiple people with the permissions to add users, there's always the chance that as you set that user up, you forget to add them to something. And then you're dealing with a bug when they start going through a process and find out, well, I can't see this list view, or I don't have access to this because a permission set wasn't given, or because they weren't added to a specific public group. So don't just memorize those steps. And even if you document them, don't go manually do it each time. Create a visual flow and let all of that be automated and consistent. So if we just whiteboard this out together, if you pulled up this whiteboard here, so you can see I'm drawing here a just basically a little mock-up of how my flow is going to look. And I always do this first. I always start by drawing how I want it to look so that I don't spend time in the editor just flailing around. So think about what inputs you need here. Now just hypothetically, let's say we're going to put in username, email, and then I personally like to abstract everything out. You can create this to let them go through multiple screens and select what permission sets do I want, what profile is it, what feature licenses do I need, what public groups, but now you're giving them ways to mess up. So what I would do, and what I've done with some of my clients, is set up something like a type in this flow that says, this is a sales user. And maybe there's a few different roles for sales. You've got your sales rep. Now, this doesn't need to be aligned specifically to profile and to role hierarchy. This is saying, in most organizations, in my sales organization, I only have a couple ways people interact with the system. So if I'm setting up a new user in the sales org, there's only a few things I need to tell you, and then all the rest can be automated. So for a sales user, and if I put in the username and the email, we're going to let the flow logic go set up all the data. It's going to say, all right, here's the user record. Here's the profile that we use for this sales type user. Here is the role that we're going to give them in the role hierarchy. Here are any of the permission sets that they need. Here are the feature set licenses. Here are the public groups they should be added to. So you can create all of that, set up that data in your flow. Now you're not actually doing any DML statements, so you're not doing any record updates or inserts or anything like that. You're going to hold off on all that, just set up all your data. Because next you need to grant the permission sets. And when you grant those permissions, you're going to use what's called session-based permission sets. So if you are unfamiliar with that concept, feel free to reach out. I can point you towards the documentation, but it's not very complex. The concept is I'm going to grant you permissions that you don't normally have. So I don't want this user to always be able to create users, but I'm going to, once they've given me all the inputs, grant them permission to create users, or to manage users is the permission you're giving them. I'm then going to take all that data that I set up, create it, and then I'm going to revoke that permission, and I'm going to do it all in the logic without letting it change screens. So what I mean by that is I'm not going to grant them permissions on one screen, then let them navigate away and do whatever they want. I'm going to have them put in the inputs in that interface, click submit, and then the flow will handle granting permissions, creating or editing or doing any changes in the data that need to be done, and then revoking those permissions all in the same transaction, so that I don't have a chance that they are somehow exploiting that permission that I gave them. So this is a really powerful concept because you can do this with a lot of things. You can grant permissions very temporarily within a visual flow just to allow certain things to happen. Now there's a bunch of other ways you might want to apply this. Maybe you use a visual flow to aggregate all the data, create the user record, create all of the related permission sets and everything, but you don't let them activate the user, and that comes to you in the form of an approval or in the form of just a message, and all you have to do is click activate. So if you want a little more tight control, you could do something like that. Furthermore, you may decide you don't want to even grant them temporary permissions within the flow context, and you could have that all show up in an email to you with all of the data formatted perfect so that it's very easy for you to set up. So there's different grades here of how automated it gets, and you can start with something more manual that just uses a visual flow to collect the data, provide it to you within a queue, within a structured environment that you can work through and just get it done very effectively. You're going to see a lot of gains in efficiency there. But ideally what you're doing is you're automating it so that then you can delegate it. You can take that flow, you can put it on the homepage of sales managers, for example, or for any manager level employee across the organization. You can say, hey, I'm going to give this to you. Or just for my HR employees, I'm going to give this to you. And I'm going to make this Lightning component with this flow in it selectively visible just to you. And then when they come to their homepage, they have the interface right there to add users, and they are fully self-contained. All you need to ever do is update that flow. If there's a change in the way that permissions or public groups or anything functions, you change it once, and every new user gets set up correctly. Instead of having to update your documentation, then hope that everyone goes and looks at it and doesn't just go off memory, and next thing you know you've got errors. There's just a lot of different things that can happen. So that's a very quick walkthrough and example of how this applies to user management, but there's a ton of ways you can apply this. You can apply this to administering over various parts of your organization. Some things might get more complex, in which case you might want to look at writing some Apex code to perform some functions using the metadata API, and then make those invocable so that they can be called from a visual flow. You may need specific records that come in as either cases or a custom object that you manage in terms of approving some of these changes. But again, it'd be much easier if you have a whole workflow built where they provide their request using the visual flow. It comes into a queue. You go in for the day and you look at it and say, oh great, the service team is requesting that we add this product. And all I have to do is click OK, and my approval then fires the creation of that record. And they've already provided all the inputs because in your visual flow, you validated and said, here's the inputs that you have to give me. It all comes in with the data already validated. So instead of you having to do any legwork to go build that product, you're pressing one button and it's getting created. Or here's values we want added to a specific pick list. Here's changes we want to make to a campaign. There's all sorts of use cases for this where maybe there's restricted permissions that you don't want to be involved every time those things happen. You should be able to, at very worst, have to click one button to approve it and let the transaction process versus getting involved in manually doing these things. So if you do that, you start applying this logic to the various workflows that you have, look at what are the most common things bogging you down and go build a custom visual flow. Do it on your own time. Spend some weekend time so that you don't even have to get approval to spend your time during work, because once you've done that, you're going to free up a ton of time to work on the things you actually want to spend time on. So if you have questions about this, if you're trying to build visual flows and you're having issues, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you out. If you've got creative ways that you've used visual flows or other tools to automate the administration of your system, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about the stuff you guys are doing and help other admins to do the same. So hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.